Halloween.
Forever.
All right, Steven, my boy. I don't know why that's my quote for the night. Steven, my boy.
Steven, my boy.
Steven, my boy. Oh, man. Yeah, my grandma, boy, she's a real card.
Yeah.
You know my grandma,
Yeah,
right?
I know your grandma.
She likes to prank us. She's a big prankster. She's always pretending to choke on her food. She's always doing this whole fake choking gag. I fucked up the joke because I said gag.
You
The
buffoon.
punchline is
You buffoon.
the punchline is here. I dragged it out too long. Let me start over, but keep it all in because this is prime stuff. My grandma likes to prank us by pretending she chokes on her food.
Yeah.
It's an old gag.
It's an old gag. There you go.
But I said gag
Right.
instead of jokes. Guys, welcome to a absolutely amateur hour minisode of Halloween is Forever. I'm Brian.
I'm Steve.
Steve, I don't know if I've botched a joke that hard in the history of this podcast. In the 100 freaking episodes, I don't even know how many episodes we've done. Certainly well over 100. I don't think I've ever botched a joke quite that hard.
I had a sound run through my head when you did it.
Yeah.
And have you ever seen the clip of Kelsey Grammer falling off the stage?
Yes, I have seen that. Yep.
That is the sound I heard. I heard Kelsey Grammer go, oh good Lord.
Oh, good Lord. That's pretty much what I did just now, guys. Boy, we are off to a shaky start here on this beautiful Saturday evening in September. Here's what I'm going to blame it on, Steve. I was at a child's birthday party.
Mhm.
I came home and just started slugging Oktoberfest.
Sure.
So I'm on my third 16-ounce can of Oktoberfest already here, and that's been in about the last, certainly under an hour. So I'm trying to tie a little buzz on Steve here. And would you blame me? It's Saturday night. All right.
No,
I got
get it.
Strange Invaders on. But unfortunately that joke was a travesty.
Mhm.
On a lot of fronts. That's all right, guys. Only up from here. That's the only direction we can go. But we're going to talk about kind of an interesting little flicky here tonight. But before we get to all that son of a bitch and stuff, Steve, I've been drinking on some beers. You drinking on some beers over there? What you got?
Sure. So you just said you've been chugging on Oktoberfests,
Mhm.
and we'll get to yours, obviously, but I also have one, and it's a new one.
Ooh,
Yes.
a new
So-
beer or a new Oktoberfest?
I mean, both. Kind of both.
Oh, both.
Kind of
both.
both. So Schlenkerla, we know Schlenkerla.
We love a Schlenkerla.
They have the
Friend of the
Märzen.
podcast.
Yeah.
Schlenkerla, friend of the podcast.
They have the Märzen.
Of course.
But this year, because they're adding more seasonals to their arsenal. Like they
Yeah.
started with a root beer and they started with a Schwarzbier. They've added a fest beer specifically for Oktoberfest, but it's smoked rather than on beechwood. It's smoked on pecan wood.
Ooh, you getting that? Give me that smoked beer exclusive here.
Yeah. So let me just get the beer here. Let me show it to you on the.
You're right.
Bro, I fucking pranked you. I pranked you so hard. I pranked you so good, bro. Bro, pranked. Bro, get pranked.
I got what my daughters, that whenever somebody gets roasted, they say roasted, toasted, made like toast, which
Oh,
I
yeah.
explained to them. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but you did. You burned me. You burned me there, dude. I got so horned up thinking about smoked beers, and then you pull out this dog shit. Tell the listeners at home that aren't in the Discord that didn't see that. What type of fucking tomfoolery you're pulling on me here?
Yeah, I mean, hey, this whole movie's about pranks that we're talking about tonight. So I figure I give you prank, and I'm not drinking
You
that.
pranked me hard, dude.
That beer doesn't exist, but I'm a good liar. So I got you to believe I was drinking it, but I'm actually drinking.
I got genuinely excited. And this is for listeners of the podcast. Steve told me about when they did the cherry wood beer, and I got
Yeah.
all excited about it, and I went and bought it.
Right.
And it was delicious. So he not only did he get my hopes up and thought I was getting an inside exclusive on a new smoked beer. It was believable because that's happened in the past.
Yeah.
God damn it. The layers of the prank.
It's a good prank. But what I'm actually drinking is from the Arizona Sprite Beverage Company, their hard cowboy cocktail fruit punch.
Jesus Christ. The cowboy that drinks that is definitely wearing like a Dayglow starter style pullover jacket with his cowboy hat.
Yeah.
Short shorts. What is cowboy punch? What's that? Is that just a fruit punch type situation, a Hawaiian punch-ish type of thing?
Well, so I think because they can't have the same branding as like the non-alcoholic stuff. So the non-alcoholic has just like a regular fruit punch and it's basically everything else, but they had to add extra words, cowboy cocktail. So it doesn't get confused and they don't get sued.
I see. Oh, good Lord. Good Lord. Is it worth drinking? Is it any good? I mean,
No.
I'll answer the question right off the bat. I'm sure it's got hot garbage.
It's not hot garbage, but it's also not good. Like,
yeah,
it tastes weirdly of fruit snacks. And then like, like
syrupy,
syrupy, weirdly of like melted fruit snacks, like fruit snacks you left in a hot car. And then you ate those after they all congealed into one fruit snack.
What's the ABV on this stinky slut you're drinking?
It's only 5. It's only 5.
It's only 5%, so you're not even catching a good buzz off of it.
No. Like, you probably have to drink a shitload of these to actually, like, really catch a buzz. But I don't know. You're probably going to get hit with some kind of sugar shakes before you get there.
Yeah, you're going to get the diabetes from that. You're gonna get the sugar foot. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm drinking something that is significantly higher ABV. It's like 6.2, 6.4, 6.2 ABV, and it's actually a damn good quality beer here. I'm drinking from our friends over at Burgers Brewing Company here in beautiful Zillionople, Pennsylvania. Well, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania here, but their breweries that over. I got this from the pub in Zilly. Afstein, which is their fest beer. So I was saying Oktoberfest. It's actually a fest beer, but pretty darn close. Basically, a nice, rich, higher ABV, hoppy Helles, just like a fest beer should be. Good God, it's nice. I drank the first one, stopped on the way home. I had to drop off some other children's that weren't mine at their various houses.
Sure.
So I left the beer in the car for a minute, started to warm up. So I did the old ice bath technique. I also got a 4-pack of the pills, the German pills, which is great. The Deutschtown pills, which I drink all the time. Are you familiar, Steve? Are you familiar with the ice bath technique to cool down the beers?
It's just like it's kind of similar to the paper towel one, isn't it?
Yeah, similar, but you spin it.
Yeah.
Boy, I've been doing this for 15 years, and I'm always still surprised how well it works. You could take a beer that's damn room temperature, put some ice, fill it up with water, and then just sit there and spin the can for like 1 minute, and it's fucking cold as hell.
I've seen. It's
physics.
Like, obviously the sharper image doesn't exist anymore, but it was like a similar website or some shit, and somebody invented specifically a beer can spinner for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I mean, it would
it's
make
like one use gadget.
It's an old sparkling wine trick, I think, that people would do and just hold the bottle and spin it, but it works great with a 60-ounce can too. Anyway, boy, this beer's drinking good. I got a pills on deck as well, so we're feeling good. We got a full house in the chat in the Discord here. So, hey, if you're drinking on something, drop it in the chat. Let us know what you're drinking on if it's exciting. Unless it's just hot fucking garbage like Steve's drinking, then just keep that to yourself and live with your shame. Don't feel any shame. I'm a bourbon and squirt guy personally myself. So
that's shameful
I feel no shame. I feel no shame.
There was something like very hillbilly about that.
Bourbon and squirt.
Yeah.
I was just telling somebody about this last night. I played in a golf tournament yesterday afternoon, which is not a hillbilly thing to do, but I am a man who has a Fu Manchu, and I was wearing a Miller High Life hat during the whole tournament at my friend's, like, not super rich, not like elite 1% level rich, but at a country club, right, which is near my house, of which I am not a member of the country club, but my friend is. He invited me to come play in this tournament with him. We went and played in a golf tournament yesterday afternoon. Obviously, I'm like out there ripping cigs with my Fu Manchu, just being, generally white trash. And oh, Jesus Christ. I lost my train of thought. How do I start this story? Why am I talking about this?
We were talking about bourbon and squirt, and so I guess you were going to tell me what you were drinking on the course.
Yeah, I asked if they had squirt. No, afterwards we went to the clubhouse, we drank some beers out on the course, we shot all right, whatever. We went back to the clubhouse and, we got through some beers and we're like, hey, let's have a bourbon drink, And one of the things on the cocktail menu was like a bourbon thing with like grapefruit. And I was like, that's just a fancy version of what I drink at home. And they were like, what do you drink at home? I said, bourbon and squirt. And they were all like repulsed. Like it was the most horrible thing in the world. And I was like, you cake eating motherfuckers. Go down to Giant Eagle, grab yourself some fucking sugar, some squirt sugar free, and put a couple glugs of wild turkey in it, some ice. It's fucking delicious. And just try to tell me it's not. Try to tell me it's not. I kept calling them cake eaters, which I feel like it's a great insult for country club people.
Well, I mean, like a Paloma is just tequila and grapefruit. I'm sure whiskey and grapefruit has a defined cocktail name. I just can't think of it at the time. But you're just drinking the low rent version of that. Like there's always low rent versions of proper cocktails that you just can make up with soda.
I think they're squeamish about the word squirt. Personally.
Yeah.
I think if I would have said bourbon and fresca, they'd be like, ooh, lar. But I say bourbon and squirt, and they're like, ooh, their buttholes pucker up because they're worried about squirting. They're worried about the word squirt. It's like the word moist. People get all
it with a shot of Maker's Mark and then an ounce of Perrier with a squeeze of grapefruit, Brian.
Yeah, fuck that. Give me some sugar-free squirt, pour some Wild Turkey 101, some ice cubes out of the fridge, suck my dick and kiss my ass. That's what I say.
As we've learned from last week.
Yeah. This is my new persona. Like I said, as we get towards Halloween, I'm just cutting promos. I stunned the dude that was making it. I fucking poop. And I gave him, it was more of a diamond cutter because I hit him as I was running past him.
Sure.
But in any case, sounds like in the chat we got a lot of folks drinking on some coffee. Dan's drinking an espresso iced tea, very continental. All right. As we talked about a little bit last week, and for those of you who are new to the show, maybe you're just tuning in here because it's almost Halloween time. You said, let me find a spooky ooky Halloween podcast out there. Well, guys, it's not just Halloween. We do horror movies all damn year long. Obviously, we get a little bit more festive, a little more Halloween-centric once we get into the Halloween season. But horror movies all year long, every Monday on the internet. Spooky, ooky shit. Follow us over on the social medias at Halloween's Forever, at Hallow Forever on Twitter. But the first Monday of every month, we do something called a motherfucking showdown episode. Now, normally we pick from a big old spinny wheel of a bunch of topics, and then we let our social media friends and listeners vote on those topics, and then we pick a movie that's associated with that topic, but not the case in October. We do something a little bit different. We have a giant list of, what is it, 70 something at least at this point, right?
It's a bunch. Steve? I didn't count. Counting's hard and stupid.
It's got to be, counting's for goddamn idiots. I would say it's 70, 80 movies at least that are Halloween, the holiday centric. Either it takes place on Halloween, around Halloween time, or in some instances are just decidedly Halloween themed throughout. Most of which are horror movies, most of which are genre films. There's a couple other, odds and ends thrown in there as well. But what we're going to do is me, Steve, and then a pick that represents our Patreon friends.
Nope.
Oh, no. Yes, we have a change of plans. Steve, tell them about our change of plans. I almost forgot.
Yes. So, because it is spooky season, we went out and we said, it's fine that we represent the patrons. But October time, it's best. Why not we get a guest? And so we are going to bring on a special guest. Should we announce who that guest is today or keep it for next week so we have something to talk about? Because we still got 2 Mondays left in September. We got to have something to talk about.
Yeah, let's do it next week. We are going to have a fun, exciting guest for the October Showdown. So the question is, though, Steve, are we going to pick this week the movies that we each have, or are we going to wait till next week on that?
So we will pick the movies because I did talk to our guest, and I asked our guest, I said, hey, guest, where would you prefer to have your movie picked? Would you prefer to be the first one spun, second or third?
Mm-hmm.
And that guest said they would like to be the third pick of this wheel.
Third spin.
So now we just have to decide who goes first.
Okay. Do we do Bear Ninja Cowboy?
What's Bear Ninja Cowboy? Oh, is that rock, paper,
Bear
scissors?
It's like rock, paper, scissors, except for it's a bear, it's a ninja, and a cowboy. Bear goes, rah. Ninja goes, wah. Cowboy says, put him up, partner.
Okay.
Bear kills Ninja because he mauls him. Ninja kills Cowboy because he can block the bullets with the swords. And then, of course, Ninja kills...
Cowboy kills Bear because Cowboy has guns.
Cowboy shoots Bear. Yeah. There we go. All right. So we'll do, on the count of three, we'll do 1, 2, 3. And we're going to do put him up, partner, wah, or rrr.
Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
Put him up, partner.
All right. Okay. So you win. Yes. As a cowboy. All right. So you get to pick 2 or 3. Or I mean, 1 or 2.
You know what? I'm going to go 2.
Okay. All right. I'll go first. So I'll be the first drawing. Steve will be second. And then our mystery guest for October will go third. Okay. So, Steve, do you got that giant old spinny ass wheel with about a fucking 80 Halloween movies ready to go?
I do. Here's the wheel.
Yeah. All right, let me watch the stream. I got Steve's wheel here.
And so the first movie, going to Brian.
I don't know what this is. This is Baron von Laffo's Halloween Spookathon. What is this? Where did this come from, Steve?
I don't know. You put that on there. I don't know this one either.
Did I?
You had to have, because I didn't.
This might have been a listener suggestion then.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
I don't remember this. I've never seen this. I'm excited to check it out. I am going to be talking about Baron von Laffo's Halloween Spookathon, which I assume sounds like it probably is one of those. If it's anywhere near the Paul Lynde Halloween special, I'll be in heaven. So I'm excited. I'll take it. And I'll run with it.
Sure.
All right. This second spin is for Steve.
Ooh.
Dark Harvest. Okay. So this is the one that just came out, last year, 2 years ago?
I think so.
So I have read this book, but I have not seen this movie.
Yeah. So apparently this comes from Derek Bishop, but also Dan, our patron, suggested this one. So yeah, this is like a double listener request and they both get it. So, and
I like it. I'll be
defending it.
Like I said, did not watch the movie. Looked kind of cool. Haven't pulled the trigger yet. But I read the book, I want to say like 2 summers ago on vacation. And I like the book. Quick little fun read. And yeah. All right. And the last spin, this will be our mystery Spooktober guest here.
Oh boy.
Oh no. That is a real kick in the nuts here. We've got Halloween 2 and specifically Bobby Zombo version, which is of course one of our many nicknames for one Mr. Robert Zombie. So Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 will be defended, which I will say, and I know we've almost came to blows on this a couple of times. I don't hate this movie as much as other people do. It's not great, but I've come to appreciate Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 a little bit. But a little Bobby Zombo. Wow, this is going to be a movie that I don't think any of us have seen. A movie that we know nothing about, that we don't even know who put on the list, and Rob Zombie. So yeah, this will be potentially a slobber knocker, a barn burner, guys, for the October Showdown. I'm excited. I'm excited for that one.
I'm excited too. I mean, even with this Halloween too, because I don't know. I don't specifically remember getting mad when talking Halloween 2.
Maybe it was when we had a guest on, but I remember we were
Maybe.
doing like a real light conversation about ranking the movies.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's not that bad. And somebody tried to stab me through the computer. I don't remember who it was.
Look, it's possible I just got mad the way you ranked it, but also I think your rankings in general are fucked because you put like 5 way up there, and like.
No, I didn't.
No, I mean, I just in general, in comparison to regular people, I think you rank. You usually rank 5 higher than you should, and
maybe. Here's what I do. I rank. Here's what people get pissed off about my Halloween, franchise rankings are. I love the original, or the original is number 1, but then I love Halloween 2018. I also really liked Halloween Kills. I really liked Halloween Ends, and I kind of like Halloween Kills, which everyone hated. And then I don't think Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2, is that good. It's like I dropped that one pretty far down the list, and people get pissed about that. Anyway, I'm very opinionated about the Halloween franchise, guys, but we ain't talking about the original franchise. We ain't talking about that canon, boys. We are talking about Bobby Zumbo version. Robbie Zed himself.
Which, and I think the other thing is, because I actually really do like, now I'm just saying Bob Zombie and shit like that. I really do like his original Halloween, because it's like he took it and he made it. I think it's something interesting.
I think it's fun. I'm always a defender of him in his filmmaking. I don't love everything, but I remember I liked The Munsters a lot more than most people did. Yeah, he's got 31's dog shit, right? Yeah. I get it.
But
like,
that one's awful. But Lords of Salem is cool.
Lords of Salem's cool as fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing. You just have to get past his kitschiness.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to accept it for what it is.
Right.
His kitschy white trash sci-fi. Like, you just have to get past all that stuff. You know what I mean? Anyway, we are going to have plenty of time to talk about that during our October Showdown episode. Okay. So we've got the pickies out of the way. We've got the beersies out of the way. Let us remind you, we've talked about our lovely Patreon listeners, our patrons on patreon.com/Halloween is forever. But we're going to be releasing another episode pretty quick of our Patreon exclusive podcast, Youth Group is Forever. And along with that, we got some other stuff. Steve, why don't you tell the boys and ghouls at home about what you get if you do decide to give us $5 a month on the Patreon?
Yeah, you jump on that Patreon, you get all kinds of things. You get reviews and recos. You get in the Discord, like we said. You get episodes kind of early sometimes. I mean, if you watch them live, you get them the most early because it happens live. Mm-hmm. And
the earliest that physics allows.
Earliest as possible. I mean, mm-hmm. if you have that Google fiber optic network, you get it.
You got that fibe.
You just get it a little bit faster than everybody else in the Discord. That makes you elite.
That's a good point.
Makes you elite.
That's a good point.
Yeah. But on top of all that, you get an exclusive monthly podcast. This turn, we are working on Youth Group is Forever, which is our Christian-based horror, just frightening propaganda films. They're horror for many reasons, but sometimes they are actual horror movies.
Yeah, sometimes they're actual horror movies. They're Christian genre films, typically just chock full of weird Christian propaganda. Steve made me watch every single one of the Fast and the Furious episodes. So you also get our Patreon exclusive podcast series, which has come to a fiery, explosive conclusion. And Family is Forever, which again, Steve made me watch all the Fast and the Furious movies, of which I had seen only one. We watched all those. God damn it, they sucked. So I turned around and I'm now torturing Steve by forcing him to participate in one of my weird indulgent fetishes, which is psychotic right-wing Christian propaganda, which I have a sick fascination with. So we've been doing that. So, most of the movies are just telling people what they're going to go to hell for, but it's fun to talk about them. And, they're, with almost no exception, absolute dog shit. So if you want to hear us make fun of these fucking movies and drink beers and do all that type of stuff on the internet, you get an extra episode every single month. And they usually are quite lengthy in my experience. There's a lot to talk about in these movies. All right, let's get into our feature presentation for the month. Steve, tell the boils and ghouls, where you stumbled across this, because this is your idea, of which I'm thankful, because I spoiler alert, thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
How did this pop up? I mean, I've seen it on the Instagram here and there. How'd this come on your radar?
Same thing. So this movie, it's called Milk and Cereal, and it is like an hour-long found footage horror film, and it got just like a lot of buzz on social media. Twitter for me is where I saw it pop up, and I even believe Bloody Disgusting did a little write-up of this film. So
gotcha.
It got kind of like a little bit of a viral buzz, but it still is, just shy of like, 1 million views on YouTube. So it hasn't like really caught full on, but yeah, they released it on YouTube. They apparently only spent $800 on the budget, and it's gone pretty viral. And so I said, hey, Brian, you want to check this out? I said, I haven't seen it. You haven't seen it. It's free. It's easy. Let's check it out. And then we did.
Yeah. I didn't realize that you hadn't saw it before suggesting it, which is even more interesting, because now I'm eager to hear what you think about it as well. And this seems to be a pretty, from the mind of type situation. One particular gentleman, of which I was already familiar, but not as a genre guy, certainly not as a director, but a guy named Curry Barker, who I had seen just dicking around on Instagram. He's a comedian. Yeah. Right. So I would just see him do like little funny sketches and lines. He's just a funny Instagram guy. Had no idea that he had directed like 8 or 10 short films up to that point. But he's a guy that I saw and was like, oh crap, I know who that guy is when I saw him in the movie. And then I started looking it up on IMDb, and I'm like, oh wow, he wrote and directed and starred in it, which is pretty sick. I love seeing that stuff where you see somebody who like, oh, person's really talented. Holy shit, now they're blowing up. Now they're like a thing. You know what I mean? I would love to see that continue to happen with this cat. And weirdly enough, like, comedians doing horror seems to be going pretty fucking well right now, right?
Yeah. I remember like seeing the early videos of the Raka Raka crew, who I think they're from New Zealand or Australia, one of the two, but they made like a lot of super violent videos. They made like those crazy Ronald McDonald videos where like Ronald McDonald is fucking just like, shooting heroin and then kicking people in the face and shit like that. And then those guys went on to make Talk to Me. So I think we're kind of hitting like the mid stride of what's happening with like Curry Barker, because it appears like him and his partner, who like works with him on like the YouTube channel and is also acting in this film, Cooper Tomlinson. Yeah, it appears like the two of them work pretty well together, and they just put out a bunch of content together. And so I think what we're seeing is maybe the mid stride before they get something where like they actually get a deal and like get some money to make something.
Yeah, I could totally see that happening. Like, it does feel like the next logical step is somebody gives them some cash to go make a big ass feature film. Because at this point, like, it looks like Curry Barker has done, like I said, probably close to 10 short films. This is the first. I don't know if you could really call it a feature-length film. I mean, it is, right? It technically is a feature-length film, but it's just over an hour runtime. And it is, but I want to say, felt like the runtime was perfect.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have brought it. And, if this was an hour 25, I think it would have dragged. I think it's perfect.
Mhm.
The way it's paced. But yeah, this is, technically I guess is the first feature film. But let's jump into this. So there's no one else really. This makes a lot of sense for this to have been released on YouTube. So I'm curious to learn if this was by necessity or if this was a calculated decision.
I would say it's probably pretty calculated on their end, because so they have a YouTube channel called That's a Bad Idea. And that's where a lot of what the comedy stuff you said you've seen on Instagram, I'm sure it also gets posted over. I mean, I'm sure it starts on YouTube, but also gets co-posted on Instagram. And so they have a bunch.
And it could have been on YouTube or YouTube Shorts or whatever, but I saw it in that short format fashion,
Right. So they have like a bunch of just like 1 to 5 minute sketches, which are all comedy focused. But
yeah,
they also have a number of like horror short films, which are anywhere between 5 to 20 minutes. So they have been releasing. They even have a Talk to Me parody that's on there. So,
oh really?
Yeah. I haven't watched it. I'm just kind of looking at their channel right now. But they have like a number of videos, and they all hit various like between 100,000 views and up to like 500,000 views. And this film appears to be their largest landing, with just shy of 750,000. But
nice.
They are, so this was like kind of their big release coming out, because everything else up till then has just been like these short form hitters.
Yeah. This is by far the most involved project that I've seen on here. Yeah, I mean, these two are kind of the leads. Curry Barker, who also, like I said, wrote and directed this. He plays a character called Milk, and from what I can tell, the main reason they call him Milk is he just drinks a lot of milk.
Yep.
And then it's never really explained again. So it's really funny that they like work that very small little thing in there just for the title. I mean, 100% for the title, right? And then I said is kind of partner in crime in terms of their channel's concerned. They produce a lot of content together. Cooper Tomlinson plays Seven. And that's a nickname as well, which they explain. I'm sure we'll talk about here. Then we have Jonathan Cripple, who plays Greg, which we'll get into his character a little bit. And then 2 other roommates. We have Sterling Pope. It's played by Link. He's kind of in and out. And then Naomi, who is their other roommate, is Adla Alvarado.
Yeah.
Adla?
Yeah.
Is Adla? That makes sense. Yeah.
I'd go with Adla. Yeah.
Yeah. Adla Alvarado. She plays their other roommate, Naomi. And then her girlfriend, Gloria Carroll, plays the girlfriend of Naomi, Laura. Those I guess is the big characters. Oh, we do have Frank, who I guess definitely does play a pivotal role. John Simmons plays Frank. So yeah, I mean, not big well-known actors by any stretch of the imagination, which frankly I love. You know me. I sometimes it takes me out of a film when there's like a big name marquee type of person on the screen.
Yeah. Especially like in horror. Like in horror, it's easier to buy into something if you've never seen that person before, and then you never expect to see them again. There's just a little bit of movie magic to that. Because also,
especially found footage.
Yeah, especially found footage, and especially just because you can't guess that like you have no way of guessing that person is either the killer or not going to die because of their status in the film. Like when you see Samara Weaving at the beginning of Scream 6, you're like, oh, she's fucking dead as hell because she's super famous and this is the opening. Adoy.
And also, Drew Barrymore did that once upon a time.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I did want to point out, though, that Adla also works a lot on the shorts and the other channels. So you'll see her appear in a lot of the other films that they make. And she also does like the makeup.
She is a face that I had seen before, too. Oh, really? Okay, cool. I mean, when you got an $800 budget,
Right.
you're doing a lot of double duty. But
Yeah.
yes, I had recognized her face as well from the channel, or just some videos that came across. But yeah, agreed. Dan in the chat, the cast was really solid, I thought, and also the lock-in. I do appreciate that. I actually was surprised to see that Steve suggested a found footage movie because he's notoriously hates found footage, and I made him watch a really unbelievably bad Christian found footage movie recently on Families Forever on Youth Group is Forever called The Lock-In, which honestly, to call it a movie, it might even be a stretch. But
Yes.
so the best part about this, I don't even say the best, but a really great, it has a great payoff part about this is they released this on, and Steve, you'd mentioned that it seemed that it was quite deliberate, which I would tend to, agree with is probably the case, because these guys are known for having a YouTube channel. It's quite fashionable to make fun of YouTube culture right now, which I personally am all about, because there are a few things as gross as YouTube culture. My kids are 8 and 10 years old. They're watching all, slime videos. They're super into slime.
Just the dumbest brain rot.
Which is like Nickelodeon gack. Well, they make their own slime. Like they genuinely love playing with slime, which is like, it's like, for us who are in our, 30s and 40s, it was Nickelodeon gack or Floam or whatever, but they love the slime. And now my 10-year-old's getting to that point where she's like, she wants to like, oh, we're going to do makeup or whatever. So she watches these YouTube videos and these YouTube channels, and they're just the cringiest shit in the world. So it's quite fashionable to make fun of them right now, and I can relate to it. But for these guys who most likely make their living in some no small capacity via YouTube, they made a movie about a bunch of people living together that have the douchiest of all YouTube channels, which is a prank channel. There's nothing worse than a prank channel.
Yeah.
Because, and the thing is, it's not just like people like, it's not just, punked style, Ashton Kutcher, again, dating myself here, but style, punked style pranks. It's like on YouTube, it's like people like going to like dangerous neighborhoods in big cities and like going up and saying offensive things to people and then crying when they get hit with brass knuckles in the forehead. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, you literally asked for it.
Yeah.
So I love seeing those highlights of like prankster gets beaten to within an inch of his life because
yeah.
I'm like,
but then,
I don't know. I mean, that's some karma there.
But then the slimiest version of that is that they learned that garbage gets views, and so they started staging their own. And so they started staging fake pranks that they get in trouble. And then like people are like, oh my God, he's in so much trouble. Those black guys are going to kill him. Oh, and then it's like, no, they're not. He paid those guys to fucking treat him like shit. But everybody's safe. You're watching pro wrestling, but it's more dishonest because they're trying to, they're sparking like the worst. They're sparking the worst feelings a person has like racism and fear of urban environments and shit like that. Yeah. Ugh.
It has such intensely racist overtones to the whole thing too. And my favorite version of this now is the fake, and they always have Karen in the title.
Yeah.
But like fake Karen outrage videos of like someone being really shitty, saying they're going to call the HOA or like trying to save a parking spot or something. It's like, these are actors. You can 100% tell, so it's like this fake outrage porn. Anyway, it's gross. So this is kind of the type of people that we're talking about here. These characters. So there's Seven, Milk, and Naomi, who are roommates. It is Milk's birthday, and his, kind of best friend, Seven, is setting up this prank to happen during his birthday party. So he goes and buys a real gun, but with blanks from some like psycho on the dark web. And they do a really nice job of peppering little, I wouldn't even say jump scares. I mean, this one's probably the closest thing to a pure jump scare, but they're atmospheric. They're not cheap jump scares.
Yeah.
That they actually pepper in really well throughout this movie to keep the tension really high. But they go and buy a gun with blanks, you know, from a sketchy guy in a van via the dark web, they claim, or whatever. And the guy like demonstrates it by pretending to shoot himself, and it freaks them all out. But of course, he's demonstrating blanks, so he's fine. But it's just a really cool tense scene of them all in the back. The idea of discharging a 45 caliber handgun in the back of a van with no carpet, no pad, like their eardrums would be unbelievably loud. I just thought about that. Like, it's just like that would about blow your fucking eardrums out.
Yeah, it would have deafened them all. Like the next scene of the party should have been all of them going, "What?"
Yeah, because then the dude does it right by his head.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, you would have permanent.
He should have been extra deaf, but it's still, it's a super effective like hot start to the film. That like things are gonna go to certain levels, and so it cues you in really quickly, but also like the film is moving at an incredible pace because there is because it is mimicking, you know, a YouTube channel. The editing is a lot faster than a normal film would be. Yeah. So it's just like whatever imaginary person put this all together after the incidents of the film, they still edited it like a YouTube channel film.
Yeah. And I'll say, because it'll come up later, I'm sure, but like just as a preface, they did a great job of like cushioning the found footaginess of this. There was a couple times, because we've watched a lot of found footage on this on the show, but you and I individually also have watched a ton of found footage. And found footage horror, there are times where you really have to suspend your disbelief of like, why is somebody still have a camera? Why are they still pointing the camera? What, you know what I mean? They do a pretty, I think, solid job of like explaining away why there are cameras there. They actually probably take more care than they need to explain those things in some instances.
Right.
But I think they did a pretty good job overall, because that is not something. Yeah, Shiggles in the chat said smart to have a secondary camera too. I've seen that happen before too, where it's like, why is the villain picking up the camera now? You know what I mean? Or why is there I'm trying to think of what it was. We watched a movie not that long ago where there's a secondary camera that was just inexplicable.
It was Penance.
Oh, Penance.
Also brought to us by Shiggles, but Penance has has that like just unnecessary a number of cameras in there, and then like there's no reason for the cameras to be on at a lot of the time in the movie.
Yeah. This I think they did a pretty solid job of it. So it just has to be good enough where you don't question it too much,
right?
You know, and I think they do a fine job of it in this. So, so it's Milk's party. Everyone is, you know, getting drunk. It's like a smallish group. There's probably maybe like 6 or 7 people there. Yeah. Like it's a pretty small group of friends. We start to get these little, you know, which make a lot of more sense later, but of like Milk explaining that he like, because they're playing Never Have I Ever, and you know, they talk about, have you ever killed an animal? And somebody's like, oh, I accidentally ran over a squirrel. And Milk's like, I killed a cat. And they're like, oh no, you know, and he just like, it doesn't really seem like it was an accident.
Yeah. He has this, like, it's not a full eek the cat lisp, you know, the eek the cat, you know, he doesn't have that full lateral lisp, but he has just a little bit of a lisp that like he has an affected creep to him when he's like, is this something that you're not supposed to do?
Yeah. Oh man, that I haven't thought of Eek the cat in a long time. That just reminded me of one of my favorite things that I used to say to people when I was doing some sort of like very monotonous task. And it was from when Eek the cat, Eek was in hell, and he freaks out. Like, he's so positive about everything that he like makes the devil lose his mind, because he's sentenced to go to hell and clean hell's litter box. So they have an infinite litter box that just goes on like a desert, and he has to go pick all the poop out of it. And he's like, how can you, the devil's like, how can you stand this? And Eek's like, I make a little game out of it. I imagine that every time I pick up a pile of poop, another wish comes true. So I used to say all the time, nobody ever got the clue. Nor should they.
No.
Nor should they.
It's deep cuts.
Obscure Eek the cat quote.
Yeah.
So anyway, so they come to the, everyone's kind of drinking at the party or whatever. And we start to get this little snapshot. Like, we already know a prank is coming. We have met another friend who is a friend of Seven. He's in his acting class, and he's going to show up at the party, and he's going to participate in the prank. And there's going to be there's going to be a squib involved. There's going to be a blank in a real gun involved. We don't know exactly how it's supposed to play out, but this guy Devin shows up. Devin rolls in. Milk doesn't know Devin. Milk kind of gets a little mad at Seven, takes him to the back room, like, why did you invite this rando to my birthday? He's like, I thought he was cool. He's my friend. He has a flimsy story about where he met him. And then they hear some yelling. They go out in the living room. Devin is pointing a gun at somebody and ultimately shoots Naomi. And the squib goes off in her shirt. Milk's losing his mind. Oh, surprise, it was a prank. We got you. They prank Milk. So now, as an audience, we know that Seven is, these pranks are pretty high stakes. They're pretty intense. Milk is like doing pretty well with it, but he's pretty freaked out. And everyone else is just like, hey, it's a prank. We do pranks. Yeah. We're douchebags on the internet. Then all of a sudden, there's another knock on the door. And it's a neighbor. He's an old ass neighbor. He kind of looks like a really tall Neil Young. And he's pissed off. And he says he's got kids that are trying to sleep. And they're like, oh, sorry. And he really kind of everyone just goes quiet. And then he just barges into the apartment, kind of like does a lap around the apartment. And Milk is like, oh, this is just another prank. Like, this is just a further part of the prank. And they're all like, no, we don't know who this is, whatever. He leaves. They all decide we are going to go to 7-Eleven. So they go to 7-Eleven. They're acting like absolute douchebag, like acting like high school kids in the 7-Eleven. They're walking back and they see the same old guy outside. Milk at this point, as far as we know, is convinced that this guy is part of the prank that Seven and Naomi are pulling on him. He like snatches his hat off his head. He's kind of like being rude to him because he thinks this is all part of the prank. They all of a sudden, Seven comes in, wakes up Milk at like 6 something in the morning, and the old guy is sitting on their couch. He's come into their apartment. He's on their couch. Seven wants to call the cops, but Milk doesn't want to for some reason. So that's a little suspicious. But he's like, no, let me talk to him. They go back downstairs. He's gone, but the deadbolt's bolted from the inside, so they don't know where he is. They assume he's somewhere in the apartment. So they're like kind of going everywhere looking for him. There's a couple little like tense moments, but they eventually walk around. They find him crying in, I don't know, one of the bedrooms. He's saying, he wants to talk. He's saying there's a girl in my head, talking about like religious trauma or whatever, and then tries to shoot himself. But like Milk stops him and eventually talks him down. And, the cops don't come, I guess. And then eventually agrees to go to dinner at his house.
Yeah.
So, yeah, which is, so anyway, at this point, you don't really know who's pranking who, or if this is going to be a serial killer in the house, creepy neighbor movie. You're not really sure at this point.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
there's a creepy guy who lives next door.
Yeah. And they've set you up a little bit with like some titles, and one of the titles is The Night He Died. So
Yeah.
you're given a clue. Okay, we're going to see somebody die probably within the next half hour, but you don't know.
Yeah.
You assume it's one of the three of either Milk, Seven, or as you mentioned, old Neil Young, because I also have, it was also in my notes, menaced by Neil Young.
Did you?
Yeah.
I swear to God,
Yeah.
I was like, hey, he looks strikingly like Neil Young.
Strikingly like him. And at this point, like, Neil Young has been selling it pretty well. That like he is the danger.
He's acting very unstable, very unhinged.
Yeah, but for some reason they agree to go to dinner at his house and have a very uncomfortable dinner.
All right, Shingles brought up a good point in the chat here. How did they not know their neighbor? That's a valid point, but I will tell you, I lived in an apartment building that did not look very dissimilar to this, and my now wife and I, who we were dating at the time, we lived in an apartment together, just two of us in a one-bedroom apartment, and we were the youngest people in the apartment by 30 years, and we did not know anybody because they all were like old widows and widowers, and nobody talked to anybody. And this made me think of that because I was like, yeah, I mean, we would see them around, but like people died and then new people moved in, or people moved to retirement homes. Like there were always new people here because it was a dirt cheap apartment. And like when you live in a dirt cheap apartment, there is a rotating door of new faces.
Yeah, I had a similar situation of like, it was like condo row houses sort of. Like it was.
This was condos. These were technically condos too, but it might as well have been an apartment.
Yeah, but it was like it was like a house that was split in half, but it was like a bunch of these tenements all kind of lined up in a row, and we had like a courtyard. Yeah. So like it was me, and then my roommate and her boyfriend, and we all lived in this one in half a condo, and then the only neighbors we kind of knew were the ones that we shared a wall with, because they were just right next to us, but we hardly ever talked to them because it was a mom who was older than us and her kids, which, like we were in our 20s. We're not going to talk to a 40-year-old mom or her 10-year-old kids. We don't give a shit about either age. And then everybody else we never really saw or interacted with because we all had our work schedules. So like, we're just coming and going as we, like I barely saw my roommates because the one guy, he was in the IBEW and just worked crazy union hours, and I worked crazy warehouse hours doing deliveries at night, so we hardly saw each other.
Same thing. My wife during this time, Kate worked at like 6 or 7 in the morning, and I worked 2:30 to 11 p.m.
Yeah.
So like, we barely saw each other. But anyway, boy, I could tell you some stories about some fucking characters that lived in that place. Crazy drug addicts asking for $6, and like, or like this guy who I would literally on several occasions had to like drag him out of his car before because he couldn't get into the garage because he was so drunk. I had to like pull him out of his car and like shut his car off.
Oh my God.
It was a disaster. Anyway, so they got the neighbor. He's acting a fool over there. We get this little scene where like Naomi gets home. She's pretty pissed because Laura, who we'd met at the party, had broken up with her. So she's bummed. She's like, she broke up with me over text, which is like, and this seems really sudden. She's like devastated. And she's like, how did she, why? She's really adamant about like how fucked up it is that she broke up with her over text. They have now committed to going, Seven and Milk, to have dinner over at the neighbor's place, which I think they know his name at this point, which is, I believe, Greg. Which I could not stop thinking of old Greg from the Mighty Boosh. But they go to buy wine at the grocery store to take to old Greg's house. And Seven's like, I remember I lost my wallet, so Milk has to buy the wine. They go over there, and there's like a little hidden camera situation with them two, and they're having dinner with Greg. And Greg's saying some wild shit, like really unpleasant story about his dad making him drink his mom's blood. Or like mixing his mom's blood with wine.
Yeah.
It was like it was a pretty wild story.
Yeah, it's like some sort of like lost Albert Fish tale. It's like
it really does. Like I've got 40 pins in my scrotum.
Yeah.
You know, like it's pretty sketched out. But like the tone of this movie is so strong because going back, you're like, man, they telegraphed everything, but really subtly, but substantially. Like, wow, this movie was so well written, I will say, like really, really well written because he's saying these things that feel very heavy handed. So it's perking your eyebrows up going like, is Greg for real? Like what? This seems too much.
Yeah, right.
Right. Which it is.
Yeah. It is. You find out.
And then it is, right? And then you also are like, wait, who's running the camera here and why exactly is this happening? But it's just believable enough that it doesn't completely telegraph every punch. Anyway, both guys, they're drinking wine with Greg. Greg's saying stories, Albert Fish fucking fairy tales, right?
I do want to point out.
Yeah.
They are talking about how like everybody got their name, and they're talking about Seven, and Seven's like, well, you know, there's a bunch of Stevens in my family, and I'm the seventh Steven.
Right.
And Greg says, well, I feel bad for the 13th one. And I don't know if you caught it, but as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh, like the Danzig song.
No, I didn't.
Got the number 13 tattooed on my neck.
That's one of the worst fucking Danzig songs. The song sucks.
I like the Johnny Cash version.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, both guys just keel over. They just pass out from assumedly the wine being drugged in some capacity. Then we get the night he dies. Kind of it's almost like a digitized like title, not a title card, but like a little, what do you call it? Like a little interstitial type of thing. It just pops up on the screen, almost like it was analog edited on, you know. And they wake up, meaning Milk and Seven, tied up in the desert. And old Greg is standing there with a gun on them, saying he wants to die, but he wants one of them to kill themselves too. So he's going to kill himself. He wants one of them to kill himself too, because he doesn't want to die alone. And they're going to choose. He's making them choose which one of them is going to kill themselves along with him, or else he's going to kill both of them. So again, this all feels like very out of the blue, very like rushed, but like obviously very much by design. Milk does a straight Mr. Fuji, which works brilliantly, which always works. Dude, a Mr. Fuji, which is just to throw sand or dust or salt or some sort of powder in somebody's eyes, works 100% of the time. It's the fucking, it's cheat code. Like, it's an OP move. He throws fucking sand in his eyes and he's like, shoot him. And then, of course, Seven fucking blasts Greg. Works flawlessly.
Devs, we need you to rebalance the Mr. Fuji. It's OP.
It is. It's such an OP move just to throw sand in somebody's eyes. And then it's so Seven, pow, blasts Greg with the gun, because Greg has got a gun and he's like, here, one of you guys got to shoot themselves. Don't you point that gun at me, or else I'm going to shoot you. Take this gun. So he has given, in this case, Seven the gun. And that's when Milk, Mr. Fuji's him and says, shoot him. Seven blasts Greg.
I have to compliment the kind of gun spray effects in this.
Yeah. It was pretty good.
Yeah,
huh?
They're not terrible, especially again done on a really cheap budget. I'd have to go back and rewatch it again to see if it's completely digital. I couldn't figure that out.
I think this one is digital. I I didn't rewind it, but it felt very digital. But it was so fast that it was okay.
Yeah. The other thing they do is like the footage is just a little bit degraded. You know, man, it looks real.
Really?
Yeah, because
I just watched it the first time, and I guess I assumed it was digital because of just the pattern. It felt like it was too visible to be practical.
Well, the thing,
like the color was too vivid.
Sure, but you know what makes it look real for me is so it's coming off from an off-screen setup, so it's not even like it's attached to Greg when he's shot. It could very easily just be blood thrown from a bucket. But what catches me that makes me think it's real is they have one light source out in the desert, and that light source is like popping really hard as it's reflected off the blood. So yeah,
so you're saying that would have been incredibly detailed work if they would have done that digitally.
Yeah. For a film that's made for $800, that's way too much work to put in to do.
Yeah,
because I think I saw that recently in The Killer 2024, the remake John Woo did of his own fucking movie. There are some really bad digital blood in that. There's some pretty decent digital blood in that, but also he gives you some of the good stuff too. And some of the good stuff is just too, liquid dynamics are so fucking hard to recreate. It is such a pain in the ass. Why bother? Just do the real thing.
It's mind blowing that people actually can do that with any degree of success digitally. But yeah, that's a great point. You might be right. I have to go watch it now, because if there's light refracting off that blood in a significant way, there's no way they did that. Or maybe they just had a friend that was fucking really good at it. Who knows? But it looked good. Yeah. It looked good. But then they're like, after that, Milk's like, haha, got you, bitch. This was a prank. I hired Greg. Greg's my fucking guy, whatever. And then they go up and check his pulse. Greg's dead. Everyone's freaking out. What the fuck happened? How did this happen? Whatever. Cut to 2 days later. 2 days earlier. And we get Milk scheming. So we start to get a little bit of his idea of like, hey, I know that this like prank's going to happen. I'm going to basically build a prank off of Seven's prank, and I'm going to go hire this guy. And it's going to be impossible for him to know that I foresaw what he was going to be doing and basically, pranked off of his prank. So that's where we meet. At this point, we didn't know that Greg was an actor, but again, we were kind of getting some interesting vibes from him, especially anybody who was a genre fan, right, would have been able to sniff that out a little bit, but it wasn't explicit. And now we see when they met this old actor guy, and we see how Seven and Milk's plans intersect, right? Which is really clever writing, not anything revolutionary, but I think they take it a couple, they peel back a couple layers of the onion that a typical movie like this you probably wouldn't see. We start to get this feeling, because up until this point, we're kind of thinking, or at least meant to think, that Seven is a little bit the ringleader.
Mm-hmm.
He's a little over aggressive with the pranks. He's a little bit of a loose cannon. He's willing to push the envelope into a place that makes other people uncomfortable, especially Milk. Well, now we start to see Milk unraveling a little bit. We start to see that he's actually pretty fucking weird. He steals shit.
Yeah.
Like he steals Laura's jacket, and we're like, oh, weird move. You know what I mean? Like, weird move to steal Laura's jacket. But then he's also talking really weird about his stealing the jacket, talking about his patterns and his limits and his morals. And you just start to get this idea of like, if you are a true crime person, or you kind of have watched enough serial killer movies or true crime stuff, you start to see these. He's really starting to rationalize a ton to himself.
Yeah, he's rationalizing a lot, and also a lot of these are filmed separate from everybody else. He's by himself.
Oh yeah, good point.
In the car with Lara's jacket, and he's like holding it, and then like a lot of his thoughts are half finished in these scenes as well, because he doesn't want to completely reveal himself. He's like, I told myself I wasn't gonna, and then just like the camera cuts, because he's like, they're editing.
Yeah.
You know, whoever's doing the editing and that's kind of left up to a mystery, but it's like, you know, he's cutting out thoughts that he doesn't want to reveal at this moment.
Yeah, and you get the idea. This is not. He's almost doing this for himself, and the audience might not. There might not actually be an audience,
right? Or at least the audience hasn't discovered it yet.
Yes, right. It hasn't been revealed to the audience yet, or this is a future audience or something like that. But then he calls Laura about bringing the jacket. And there's a scene that now, you know, Milk is very much up to no good, because he calls Laura and is like, hey, I got the jacket, whatever, we're going to bring it over. And she's like, bro, like, I'm sleeping. I'm not really interested. You know, hey, we can do this another time. Thanks a lot, whatever. But then he eventually tricks her and says like, hey, me and Naomi are actually like in your neighborhood. It would be silly not to go do it. And in between those two calls, he has this little like frustrated spaz out kind of in the car too. So you're like, whoa, this guy's a little bit volatile at this point. But he ultimately tricks her into sending her address. So Milk goes to Laura. Reminder, this is Laura, Naomi's girlfriend, who Naomi believes has broken up with her. He goes in, actually just knocks on the door. She comes out. He ends up kidnapping Laura, kind of like strangling her, or like, you know, choking her out, and then makes her text, or I can't remember, or he texts Naomi from her phone and breaks up with her. So now he's got Laura, you know, hostage basically at this point, or is kind of held captive. And this is where we see that, like, yeah, Milk has fully lost his fucking marbles. He wears this weird kind of clear mask, almost this like Poughkeepsie tape-y type of like plastic, half translucent mask. And this is where I think this movie really has a unique tone to it. Obviously, the twisty turny, who knows what's happening, what perspective is this from? Like, it keeps you guessing on that front in I think a really strong way. But also this, like, the closest thing I can just make it, or I can compare it to, is Creep.
Mm-hmm.
The Creep movies.
Sure.
It reminds me a little bit of that, in that the villain, in this case Milk, is insane, but he's also kind of silly. And in this case, he's way more like media savvy. Like, imagine if a YouTuber was a fucking bonkers serial killer. Like, that's kind of, I mean, that's kind of the premise, right? Oh yeah, good call. Dan just said it's kind of like the mask from Hush. It is. It's that kind of like semi-transparent, like mold over your face type of mask.
Yeah, I think it was also in the Sugar and Spice movie from like 1999. Or no, they wore different Barbie masks. My bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but no, it's actually, it's just a really unique performance. And it's like, you find yourself kind of like smirking, kind of half giggling at some points, and then the very next line will be something really dark, you know, like he really cares about why he's picking the mask for a very specific set of reasons. But then at one point, Laura's like, is this a prank? And he's like, no, life's unfair. You're just unlucky.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's this very fatalistic, like, ugh, you know, make your skin crawl type of quote right after he's saying something about like his very conscious decision to wear this mask. You know,
it's interesting because we've already mentioned it a couple times how like this mask is obviously something that has come up in other films. Like we've just seen similar versions of it. It's not new, and it's something that's really easy and cheap to buy. And later in the film, it's mentioned how like Milk has been locked out of the YouTube prank channel, and he's essentially getting he's getting phased out of the group because Seven doesn't like his ideas and thinks he's unoriginal. So it's funny that in this scene he's like gone through all this trouble to pick this mask that's just very mundane. Like it's not
wholly unoriginal.
So like you're right, he has a slight more media savvy than Ted Bundy does. You know, he's more media savvy than Gacy, but that's also just a product of him being a Zennial in 2024. Of course he would know how to have a YouTube channel. He just would know that. So like he's not that much more original, although his plan is, the convolutedness of his plan is different from other serial killers.
Yeah, no, he is not in and of himself. Like the character's plan is not necessarily creative, but the writing of the movie, the writing of the character is is creative, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Because he has just like that weird affect. And my favorite scene with him is coming up very shortly after this, where he is in the room by himself explaining he's got the gun, and he's like, okay, so this is the part where I take out all the blanks and replace them with bullets. And then he starts playing with the gun and putting it to his head. And he's like, oh, am I going to do it? Oh, I'm going to do it. Oh, should I put my finger on it? And then he puts his finger on it and he goes, oh my gosh. He's like, I was so scared, you guys. And it's such a kind of almost phony YouTube play to appeal to emotion. I'd be like, oh my gosh, but it's also super serious because he did just almost blow his brains out. It's great.
It is. I wrote that down to such a great scene because it's very performative, which is the best way I can describe YouTube personalities as a whole. They have this typically insufferable level of like performative, over dramatic when there's nothing really dramatic happening. But then just below that, the surface, you're like, no, he on some level, he either gets off on the danger or he actually does have a deep desire to kill himself, or both. And probably the answer is both, right? But it is such a weird, interesting scene.
Yeah. It's my favorite. I love it. That's my favorite scene.
Yeah. It might be my two. It's all the gaslighting stuff too gets really creepy, but yeah, that's a great one. Anyway, like he ultimately talks this old desperate actor, which is, Greg, the guy. I don't know if his name's really Greg or the character's Greg. I don't remember, but character's Greg. I forget what the name of the actor
Jonathan
is, but anyway, he ultimately kind of talks him into going along with like basically just turning a blind eye when he drugs, himself and Seven. And then just the absolute sociopathic behavior really starts to come through here, where he's talking about what he's doing to the actor that's playing Greg, but more specifically what he's doing to Seven. And he's like, he acts like it's a fun, like self-help trick or something that he has discovered. He's like, it's called gaslighting. It's like when you prank someone, but they think it's their fault.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'm doing. He just describes this like really devious, horrible thing to do to somebody, but he says it in a way like it's a cheat code. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's called gaslighting. It's like when you prank someone, but you make it think it's their fault. It's awesome. That's what I'm doing.
He's so happy about it. He's just like, it's awesome. I get him.
Yeah. He's just at this point. I mean, obviously, he's just completely amoral in everything that he's trying to accomplish here. Then you jump back to after the actor, after Greg is dead, and Milk is suggesting to them to bury the body. He's like, dude, we gotta bury this body. We gotta get rid of this. And another kind of fun scene, which is like, did it have to be in there? No, but I think it did add a little bit of tension where they go to Home Depot to buy shovels. It's this scene where Seven is like kind of beside himself, and Milk's like, go in, like buy shovels, buy this, buy that. We get basically stuff to dispose of a body. So they're going to Home Depot in the middle of the night to buy shovels and body disposal stuff. Looks very sketchy, right? So Seven's in Home Depot, and here you are out in the car with Milk, and he's doing his little, almost feels like a side project, talking to potentially no one, right? And he starts talking about how there's a cop right there. Oh my God, there's a cop right there. And as the viewer, you're like, wait, is he pranking us?
Right.
Like, is there really a cop there? Because he's being really dramatic about it, and he's selling it really hard.
Yeah.
And so you're like, is it really? But then the cop does come and like knock on the door, and ultimately it was all legit. And Milk was furious with himself because he forgot to bring the shovels.
Yeah. It's funny,
and he parked in a handicap spot. That's why the cop came over. Whatever, but
it's not necessarily like the strongest scene, but like it starts.
No, it's of no consequence.
Yeah, it starts with kind of the good gag of like after he sends Seven into the store, he's super pissed at himself, and he's like, "This isn't the way it was supposed to go." And then it's the punchline of, I can't believe I forgot the shovels. Like he like it was almost like he was trying to trick us into something else. Like it wasn't supposed to go this way, that like Greg wasn't supposed to get shot. But it's like, no.
Yeah, right.
Greg is supposed to be dead and buried in the desert. He's just mad that he forgot the shovels. And that's right back to the sociopathic behavior of like, he's just mad at himself for forgetting a small step.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's not the thing the normal person would freak out about. It's the thing that the sociopathic serial killer would freak out about. So then we get another little, interstitial card here that says March 15, the day they died. So that you would assume we know who they are, but anyway. So we see. At this point, we start to get in Milk talking to himself via his own little recordings that Milk really resents Seven because, like you mentioned, he locked him out of the channels. Like Seven is kind of like, doesn't really see a lot of value in Milk in terms of their channel. So he's feeling very betrayed and like he's being kind of kicked to the curb. Milk tells oh boy, what is his name? The other, he's not the roommate, but Link. Yes. Milk tells Link and Naomi that it was a prank. The whole like shooting the old guy thing, I guess, was a prank. And I'm like, why do they this? I'll be honest with you, I got a little lost at this point.
So Milk had already confessed to Link that Greg was in on it. Was in on like coming into the house and doing that. They don't know that they shot Greg out in the desert. They don't know that.
So he hasn't told Link that.
Right. Link only knows that Greg was in on all the other prank stuff. I don't think he knows about like dinner and he doesn't know about drugging at dinner either.
He just knows that the weird old guy who came into the apartment was somebody he hired.
Right.
Okay, that was my question mark that I because it seemed to suggest to me that almost like Milk was admitting to the fact that the guy he shot was hired, but which is the same guy. But you're saying Link wouldn't have known that, which I agree, Link wouldn't have known that. But for some reason, I took it as that's what he was admitting. But you're probably okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was just thinking a little too hard on it.
And then but that rattles Seven because he doesn't even want Link and Naomi to have that idea that there is kind of like a paper trail almost between Milk and Greg.
Yes. Yes, that's the link there. That's the part I was skipping over. So yeah, he's alarmed that Milk would have even said that much. So he's kind of losing it at this point. Seven is, because he's like, what the fuck is happening, right? Milk tells him that he told him about the quote unquote prank. Seven attacks Milk at this point, like jumps on top of him, starts like punching him, and then I think it's Link and Naomi have to come in and like pull him off of him. So at this point, Milk's got like blood smeared on his face. Then cut over back to Milk, and he still has Laura, Naomi's girlfriend, hostage, and he just very callously, very unceremoniously, just like smacks her in the head with a brick, and then just like bashes her head in, while also kind of like saying broy YouTube guy things, which was the other thing that was like, wow, that was also a great scene. Because I think the casting in this, it's interesting because I'm really glad I didn't see that the guy who played Milk is the writer, director, and star, because you just don't get from him that he's capable of that. You know what I mean? So the casting, normally you see somebody who's the star, writer, director, you're like, oh, this is like, I want to say a vanity project because it's a super low budget, so this makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, me not knowing that he was the brains behind the whole thing, I think he did a great job of really not playing his cards. He played his, I guess what I mean to say is he played his cards pretty close to the vest, in that you didn't really think Milk was the type of person that was capable of that type of violence. Up to that point. Yeah, like I mean, I guess even after he like chokes her and kidnaps her, you assume that he has like that kind of violent streak in him. Sure.
But yeah, like
that's true. He has choked her at this point, but just you saw it wasn't off screen, but you just saw her legs, so you didn't really see him being that physical. Right. You know what I mean?
Right. I'll say, and this is something Dan brought up. Dan mentions like the punches were like not close at all.
Oh yeah, that was bad. That was such a tough angle to sell that from. Though.
I think this is the one thing that kind of bothered me. Any of the physicality in this film is kind of it's just not there for me, and a lot of it reminds me of the exact same things I did on like my film shoots, because you're filming with your friends, and like you already have kind of a repartee with them. You have a chemistry, which is why they work so well on screen with like the dialogue and all of that. But there's something just missing from, I don't know, just not pushing. You're not pushing yourself further when you're doing physicality, because you don't want to actually hurt your friends. Unless you're like the Raka Raka guys, because those guys were pretty close to Jackass at some points and would just like literally drop kick each other, and do shit like that. So like,
no, these are improv nerds. They're not there for the physical comedy. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation.
They're sweet boys, and they're not going to hurt them.
They're sweet, nice little comic boys. Yeah, and girls. Like, this is just. Dan, you're 100% right. I kind of was going to let it slide. I want to bring it up because I really like this whole project, but that whole scene, I just wanted to be like, if you just put the camera from the other perspective, I know you would have lost a little bit with the faces, but if you just literally flop the camera from that perspective and put it on the totally at 12 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock, that would have made so much difference because those punches were a mile away. Those were like early Big Show hit. Like they just were not. They just the pop wasn't there.
That was Earthquake and Kamala type shit. Like they're just whiffing.
That's a great example. Yeah, they're missing by 9 inches. So they're leaning, really heavily into the whole like these are all the YouTube influencer thing. Like they're all fucking losers. You know what I mean? At this point, you're starting to see like under like the desperation that comes along with being this type of person. Milk continues to really gaslight Seven, like convincing him he's fucking nuts. Ultimately, so Seven gets a text from Greg at one point that's like, I know I'm dead, but I can still see you. This is obviously, a big part of Milk's plan. Like he's really trying to gaslight he's really trying to gaslight Seven into thinking that he is losing his mind, right? And we don't necessarily know 100% why yet, but it's becoming clearer and clearer. Greg's son, who's Frank, comes and explains, that his dad's missing. And he knows that he was participating in this project. We had a scene earlier of them, talking about the project to the old guy actor, Greg, and Frank was in the room with him. So Frank knew the score. Frank knew what type of, gig this was. And Milk makes it look like Greg went to Vegas. So he is kind of like, engineer this to make it look like Greg, who is a bit of a, I don't want to say deadbeat dad, but like you get the idea that like Frank really has to look after his dad. He's getting older. He's a little responsible. And he makes it look like he just like went off to Vegas. So Milk's continuing to gaslight Seven at this point. Tell Seven they should text Frank from Greg's phone and basically say like, I went to Vegas, see you later, whatever. He makes Seven send the text, which I think is really important, and then turns off the phone and ditches it. So Milk is making Seven like very dependent on him for solutions to these problems that he manufactured right at this point. Frank shows up at their door, their apartment, right after he gets the text from his, quote unquote, from his dad. And this is a great scene too, because Milk purposefully tells Frank a story that they cannot get out of. So he basically backs himself into a corner on purpose and makes it look like it was on accident. And a really kind of fun, like black comedy moment after he does this, which we know now at this point is 100% intentional by Milk. As soon as they close the door on Frank, Milk's like, okay, we got to kill Frank. and he even suggested earlier, like something kind of like that. And Seven was like, wait, you want to kill Frank? He's like, no, not necessarily, no, and then he's like backtracking. It just felt like such a, aside from the Frank name, it had a very It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia beat to the comedy.
Which is actually funny because so I was watching this film and I couldn't place him, but I knew I recognized Milk from somewhere. Oh yeah. He's actually been in an episode of Always Sunny. So he was, and it's just one scene, but it's like his face was bugging me. I'm like, I've seen this fucking kid. And where have I seen him? And he's just in an episode, it's like season 16, where they go to the Chuck E. Cheese knockoff that they have, Risky Rats. And he's just a kid working the desk. And he's like, I need you guys to sign these waivers to come in. And they're like, we're not signing these waivers, dork. And he's like, well, you can't come in then. He's like, and they're all just like, fine. And then they sign it and they're like, that's not my real name. And he's like, I don't I don't know. Don't care.
Yeah, he's actually popped up in a lot of stuff in these kind of small memorable roles. But yeah, he was in that one episode of It's Always Sunny. Anyway, so now we start to get the confessions of Milk on his fucking little camera show he's doing himself, and we start to get the idea that he's in this for the fame, but he's in it for a different type of fame because he's being shut out by Seven. He's not really feeling like he's part of the prank crew anymore. But the thing that he's really good at, his calling, is being a serial killer. And we start to get the idea that he's got like a pretty high body count, and he has learned from, like, he has admiration for, I think he mentions Ted Bundy. He mentions I don't remember.
He mentioned Dahmer.
He mentions a couple other.
Yeah, he's doing
Dahmer,
the
right.
YouTube performative thing too. And when he's doing that though, because he's like, look, shout out to all the real ones, like all the guys who did it before. And he's like, mad respect to the old heads, but I'm gonna go down. And
Next
it's just
level
like,
shit.
You're killing my soul.
It did. It felt very JoJo Siwa of like, I'm going to do pop music, but gay. And you're like, no shit. Really? Wow.
First ever do it.
He's the JoJo Siwa of serial killers. But he wants to be, he wants to be famous. That's what he's doing. He's fame hungry, right? But he wants to do it for being a serial killer. So he starts to talk to Seven about how they're going to kill Frank. So they have this very and this is the thing that I really like about the character of Milk is like, he's super, he's very devious. He believes that he is playing, 3D chess when he feel like he wants to believe he's playing chess when everyone else is playing checkers. But it's only because his immediate group of friends are all fucking morons like him. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't even say morons. They're just not looking for him to be a killer. You know what I'm saying?
True. Yeah. They're not looking, but because it's interesting. Well, the reason I say this is because they put these. He thinks it's a brilliant plan to put these incredibly conspicuous looking spy glasses on Seven,
right,
when they go to see Frank, and Frank sees through it immediately, because Frank lives in the real world, and they're sheltered, rich, fucking probably trust fund kids whose parents are not trust fund, but like they are kids whose parents are paying for their apartment in LA to go do improv classes,
right, and have a YouTube channel,
and Frank's kind of. And have a YouTube do YouTube for a living. And Frank's kind of lived in the real world. So Frank's like, dude, those are spy glasses. Get the fuck out of here.
Fuck off with that. And like the other side of that is like Naomi and Link, they're not clued into any of this, but how quickly they figure things out because Milk just leaves clues around. Like he's a buffoon.
Yeah.
Like as soon as they find clues,
smart.
It's over for him.
Yeah, he's not the criminal mastermind he thinks he is. He's got delusions of grandeur that you have to believe you're going to be a fucking YouTube superstar or whatever. Like you don't have any real talent, but you're going to be a YouTube fucking superstar, right? So he's got that delusions of grandeur, which will ultimately catch up to him. So he's got these they look like fucking Buddy Holly glasses, right? But they're clearly spy glasses. So like Seven's got those on, and the whole plan is for Seven to go knock on Frank's door, and basically get in there and get Frank into a place where so Seven can watch him. I'm sorry, Milk can watch him, and then ultimately like get the jump on him, right? Another kind of funny part here, which I got a giggle out of, is when they're preparing for the, quote unquote mission to go kill Frank. Seven, I think it's Seven? I think it's Seven who's got the gun. He's like, I'm going to take the gun with me just in case.
Yeah.
And he puts it in his waistband.
Oh, yeah.
Like he's a gangster. And Milk's like, dude, you're going to shoot your dick off. Don't do that.
Yeah, it's such a weird, because it is like genuine concern of like, you're going to shoot your dick off doing that. That's so stupid. And like, he's right. Like, yeah, don't fucking ever do that with a gun.
Yeah.
Don't Plexico Burris yourself.
I was literally just about to say this. No, every single time in any movie, TV show, whatever, when I see somebody put a gun in their waistband, I immediately think of Plexico Burris, former Steelers wide receiver turned New York Giants wide receiver, who in a club came very close to shooting his own dick off and actually shot himself in the thigh because he had a handgun in his waistband because he thought he was fucking cool.
Yeah.
Just the clown of all clowns.
Until Antonio Brown
Seven
came
goes,
along.
And then, Antonio Brown never almost shot his dick off.
Give him time.
I mean, at least not that got on the internet. Yeah. I mean, at least it didn't get on in the media. I bet Antonio Brown did almost shoot his dick off. So Seven goes over to Frank's apartment. Frank immediately is like, why you have spy glasses on? Like, hey, Milk. Like, he's like waving to him in the glass. He knows the score. Frank is, starts kind of spazzing out about the whole thing with his dad because Seven's like kind of explaining it to him. And ultimately he does lure him into the bathroom, like, the plan that they had. Milk pops in, stabs him in the neck, just stabs Frank right in the neck with a knife. Blood squirting everywhere. Meanwhile, cut back over, Link and Naomi are searching Milk and Seven's apartment, obviously while they're gone, and they find Milk has saved vials of the blood from his other victims and put their names on the vials. He also has I forget what else. He has some other stuff in there. Some other, kind of mementos from his serial killing career. And then Milk comes in with a bunch of trash bags and is like, get up, asshole. You got to help me clean this up. But at this point, Seven is like, he's out of it. He's checked out. He's not up for the task. He's talking about, I can't do this. Turn me in, turn me into the cops, kill me. Like, I don't care. He's almost like, I don't say comatose, but he's in a bad spot here.
Yeah, he's in shock. He's just in full shock.
In shock is a better way of putting it. Milk, meanwhile, is just like kind of seeming unfazed, but he's trying to not act unfazed, but he's pretty much is. He's cleaning up the blood. We hear sawing noises like he's cutting up the body. Meanwhile, Link and Naomi find Milk's murder shed. And I think they find it from some clues. I didn't write this down.
It was clues in the box.
They find a clue in the box. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what it was that they found, but they found something in the box that made them know where to go look for his murder shed, and of course they find Laura in the murder shed.
Yeah, I think the idea, and this is like supposed to be like Milk's plan, that they would discover, they would discover all his doings, and then the police would, and once the police found all his crimes, they would then find his box, and then he just leaves the address and a key to the shed in
yes, it's just a key, you're right,
in the memento box, because he's like doing a Dexter memento thing, which is, again, he's not that original or creative. The other thing I want to mention about his creativity and behavior, it's a little bit like the Joker. Because he is trying to do this long, convoluted plan, and at this point he does reveal that Seven
is his like masterwork of like, I'm gonna make this guy so crazy that he's going to kill himself. And it's like that felt super jokery just listening to him say it.
Yeah. Yes, you're right. Yeah, especially when he's like, this is my piece de resistance. I'm gonna make 7. Yeah, I'm gonna drive him so crazy that he's gonna kill himself, and I'm gonna be the ultimate. Like, dude, this is a little too meta. Like, you're trying to be a little too meta with this whole thing. So they find the clue that he planted so that they can go find the murder shed. Of course, they find Laura, who's still there. So Milk is when he reveals he's trying to get 7 to kill himself as his master plan. Meanwhile, 7 walks in and just kind of unceremoniously just pops Milk.
Yeah.
He's got the gun. He just walks in, pops him. Then count to 2, pops him again. So this is off screen because Milk has a camera set up to catch this whole thing. But unexpectedly, 7 walks in, shoots Milk. The camera collapses. 2 seconds later, you hear a second pop as expecting 7 kind of walked up to him and did the old double tap, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Which I think was frankly, I thought was kind of an abrupt, in a good way, ending. I also did like, although, this movie is, hey, we're trying to do something different, which you have to, right, in this genre right now, especially with everything that's coming out. But the credits, with this like upbeat poppy song, but then having a weird stereotypical serial killer like strings backing track, I thought was kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a little fun.
If not a little on the nose, but
yeah. They also play with like the speed of the pop song, like it's being slowed down on the record player, and it's just a little thing. And then if you sit all the way through, they come back to the camera on the ground and it gets picked up. So I thought initially is we were supposed to believe that 7 shoots Milk and then the second shot is actually him killing himself. But then we see he picks up the camera. So that's what I thought it was initially.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes more sense. I guess I thought about it just in that. Yeah, I probably thought about it a little less chronologically and more like after the fact when I wrote my note down. That's kind of one of the bad things about taking notes in this context is like I'll watch like a 5-minute window and then I'll take my notes.
Right.
Because afterwards, yes, it's very clear that 7 picked up the camera after doing the double tap. But in that moment, you're meant to believe that 7 killed Milk and then killed himself. But then it's kind of reiterated that didn't happen because there's someone to pick up the camera. I guess technically it could have been Laura that picked up the camera,
or Naomi.
She was still alive.
Naomi or Link
or Naomi. Yeah.
It could have been, but I rewatched the scene and like I was watching with headphones on, and you hear breathing after the second shot. So someone's still in the room breathing. So I think it is supposed to be 7. But like if you're not watching with headphones tuned in like the way I do with fucking audio and shit like that, it's very easy to miss those like small breaths as the music kicks in. So yeah. It's relatively ambiguous because you never actually see 7 on camera when the camera gets picked up. They can do whatever they want with it or do nothing at all and just not make a sequel, which is perfectly fine because this works great as just an hour-long film on its own.
Yeah. I really hope that, and the buzz that this is getting, I'm not saying it's setting the world on fire, but it's, in the horror circles, it's getting a nice nice bit of buzz. I would assume that it would be a mistake to not, give these guys some cash and go out and make something.
Right.
I makes not that they didn't. I think this was in the top 10% of movies I've watched this year. You know what I mean? Like it's frankly awesome.
Right. Yeah.
To do this with literally zero budget is really impressive. I thought it was great. But to go out and give them a budget and time and resources and all those things to go out and shoot something big is going to be fantastic, hopefully. But I do hope that it's not just, hey, do a bigger budget version of this.
Oh, yeah, that would be terrible. Don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, because this is the charm is, and it's the same reason why people been doing found footage since the beginning of found footage. It's you can make something look, something that looks low budget, you can make it make sense. Yeah, that's just the thing I hope they don't do.
Yeah, because I couldn't imagine adding another 20, 30 minutes to this film.
Nope. It would have been a slog. Yeah, an hour was perfect. I've said this before, I'll say it again. A movie should be how long it should be.
Yeah.
And if I pay $18 or $20 or whatever to go see a movie in the theater and it makes sense for it to be an hour 40, great. If it doesn't make sense and it's only an hour, fine.
Yeah.
I don't fuck care. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not going to feel gypped if a movie is an hour 10, if it's supposed to be an hour 10.
Right.
I don't want an extra half hour filler.
No, it's awful. Yeah, there's no, that's the big pushback everybody keeps having against these giant studio films is they don't feel like they're getting their money's worth by sitting 2.5 hours for fucking nonsense.
There are so few movies I want to be 2+ hours.
Yeah.
Almost zero movies. I want a movie to be 1 hour and 27 minutes. Between 1 hour and 27 and 1 hour and 35. That is the sweet spot. If it's less than that, fine. If it's more than that, it better be worth it.
Yeah.
There are plenty of movies that are, but Jesus Christ, I do not need, Dan, I do not need a 2.5 hour Fast and the Furious fucking movie. Those movies would have sucked they would have sucked dick even if they were an hour and a half, but at least they would have been more digestible.
Right. At least they would have been over.
2.5 hours of those movies made me want to lay in traffic and chug bleach.
With that said, I really love the 3-hour film Drive My Car, which is fucking a 40-minute short film, then a title card, and then a completely different fucking 2 hours and 10 minutes after that. I love that movie, and it's the last movie in probably the past 10 years that almost made me cry. So fuck it. Fuck it. I'll watch a 3-hour movie if it's great.
I will happily watch a 3-hour movie. Here, I'll give you an example. I remember everyone was super shitting on The Irishman when it came out because it was so self-indulgent and long. It didn't feel long. It felt like it was supposed to be that long. Yeah, it was long. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, it was long. But I'm saying it felt like it was supposed to be that long. But then I watched, and don't get me wrong, I thought this movie was fucking really good. The first Omen did not need to be that long.
No. Especially because, you know how it ends. You know how it ends. There's too much.
Yeah. The first Omen was so much better than I thought it was going to be. I mean, you told me it was good, but I mean, even when we first saw the previews for it, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to blow my brains out. This looks like dog shit. And then everybody was like, oh, this was pretty good. And I watched it. I was like, well, this is pretty good. But guess what would have made it better? 20 less minutes.
Or not being a prequel. Either one of those. Or both.
I mean, it didn't feel... The nice thing is it didn't really feel like a prequel.
Not
what I mean?
Terribly. But
because there's no other characters that we knew about. I mean, it didn't feel handcuffed by classic prequel things, but it felt there were some long shots that did not need to be that long.
Yeah, I am really excited to see what that director does next,
because the directing is really great in that film. The cinematography is really great in that film as well.
It is.
It's just there's just like too much. There's too many elements in it that I just feel like I don't know. Be more original. I don't.
Yeah, there was some times where I'm like, I've seen this. You could have taken a still before I watched this movie and said, "What movie is this?" And I could have named 10 movies it was
right.
from.
But then
Crazy girl scribbling on the floor in her bedroom of looks like an asylum or could be a nunnery. Like, come on.
But then there's the one birthing scene, and you go, "Well, that's only happened in one other thing I know of." So,
demon coming out of a vagina. I was hyped. Dude.
Yeah.
I was watching that, and I was this is way too much way more information we need. I won a TV, a big 75-inch TV on a raffle.
oh, okay.
Right? No skill required. I just bought a ticket to a raffle.
Sure.
I won a 75-inch TV. It's like a Vizio. It's like a $500
Yeah, that's
TV.
fine.
You know, it's not like it's a nice, but whatever, right? I have a nice TV in the basement. So I put this up in my, third floor attic / like workout area, right? So now I can watch movies while I'm on the treadmill or lifting weights or whatever. So I was on the treadmill with my headphones on, connected to the TV, watching that birthing scene. And I was like, hell yeah, bro. Like I was hyped up watching that. I was like, this is fucking sick. And there was like 2 or 3 other scenes, like when the weird demon, like when the rides break out and it licks her face.
Yeah,
I was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah. That's
Awesome
great
scene.
too. So, yeah, like I said, I'm hyped to see what that director does next. I will say, if you guys watch 30 Coins, as I keep telling you, there's another scene very similar to that birthing scene, and it came out before the first Omen. But there's another scene that just makes you go, "Holy fuck!" But you have to remember, it's at Alex de Iglesias, so he'll put any fucking thing in anything. So.
Yeah, he's wiling out. He's consistently wiling out. Guys, that was Milk and Cereal. What a fun flick, guys. It's free on YouTube. Go over to the YouTube, check it out, share it. Tell us on the social medias, hit us up in the DMs. Let us know what you thought about it. Did you like it like we did? Did you think it was dog shit? Whatever. Hit us up about it. This is a conversation movie as far as I'm concerned. And you boys like to bullshit about the horror movies. Before we wrap this son of a bitch up, let me remind you, get to watching, because we got some movies. We got an extra Monday right here in September. We got some time here before our October Showdown episode, but we have drawn the films that we're going to be talking about for our Halloween Spooktober Showdown episode. I am going to be talking about a movie called Baron von Laffo's Halloween Spookathon. I don't know anything about that. I don't know who suggested it to us. It sounds like a fun time. Steve is going to be talking about Dark Harvest, which is the film adaptation of a novel that I think came out in the last, 6 or 8 years. But the movie just came out in the last couple of years, I believe, here, maybe last 2 or 3. And then our secret mystery guest, which we will reveal on next week's Minisode, is going to be talking about that contemporary classic from our boy Bobby Zombo, Halloween 2, guys. Do you like Michael Myers? Do you like white horses? Do you like Rob Zombie's wife riding white horses? You're going to fucking love Halloween 2. Do you love ex-wrestlers? There's a couple of them in there as well. At least one. I don't know if there's a couple. At least one. All right, Steve. Anything else we should talk about before we wrap up the Sumbitch and Minisode?
I got 2 things. One is a note from Milk and Cereal that I forgot I had written down, but it's a scene after Milk gets his face punched in by Seven. We cut to him in his fucking murder, his murder shed, and he's talking to the camera, and he's like, "Hey guys," and he has the stupid mask on and everything, and it's like. It's doing the YouTube performative thing, but my note was, "Hey guys, I'm back in my angry room."
Charlie's Angry Room. Yeah, I will say, like, I alluded to it, but Curry Barker is genuinely very funny.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just like he is a comedian who has since, went on and done these other things. Even in the like, he's genuinely very funny. So when these little black comedy moments happen, they land because he knows comedic timing. You know what I mean? He's a comedian. So it is. I found myself like kind of doing a little chuckle, a little chortle on a number of occasions throughout this movie. So, I love a horror comedy. I feel like we are in the horror comedy about 3 years ago hit zombie movie level of saturation a la 2017.
Yeah.
And everyone thought it was cool to do horror comedy about, all at the same time. And about 2020, 2021, it got to a place where, like, I can't do another horror comedy right now. You know what I mean? And I would like to think, in the next couple of years, maybe we might have an appetite for a little bit more horror comedy. I could see this guy knocking it out of the park.
They still get made. There's some good ones out there, which is my second thing
There are good ones.
It's my second thing I wanted to bring up is I actually have like 3 movie suggestions that kind of go along with this film. But they all have like higher budgets. One of them is very obvious, Deadstream, which came out in the past couple of years. If you haven't seen it. That is
a great example of a, like, we'll call it postmodern,
post YouTube
horror comedy.
Yeah, post YouTube
horror comedy that is really genuinely clever and funny and nails the physicality in a way that this movie maybe doesn't.
Yeah. Another one is called Mean Spirited. It's not as good, but it's a lot of the same subject matter of, like, being a YouTube horror comedy. And I mean, it's not on YouTube, it's on Hulu, but it's about like a YouTube prank show that finds itself in a horror setting. It's not as good. It's a lot more standard. It doesn't do anything, but I don't know, maybe watch it. It's up to you. And
that was one that came up, has come up on my streaming suggestions a couple of times, read the description for and avoided like the plague because it seemed like a straight up douche fest.
It's all right. It's all right. If you need to kill time, go ahead. And then the other one, it's not completely related, but it's sort of related. It's called All My Friends Hate Me. And this is a film.
I was going to say I've seen this, but I don't think I have actually.
Yeah, it's like a short chamber, not short. It's a small chamber piece about, just like this guy who is experiencing like a lot of paranoia around his friends, and it has the same element of them inviting a stranger to a party. So I thought Milk and Cereal was going to wind up going down the same road as this movie, but it didn't.
Yeah.
Milk and Cereal goes way differently, but All My Friends Hate Me is really good for that kind of paranoia, gaslighting.
That's social horror thing.
Yeah. It's paranoia, gaslighting, but it's also a horror comedy. But I like that film a lot. So check that one out if you haven't seen it. I believe it's also on Hulu, maybe. So it's out there.
All right. Hey guys, and in case you're wondering, thanks for tuning in here. Strange Invaders really starts to peak in about hour 20 of the hour 34 movie. There's a couple moments up until that, but right around that last 10 to 15 minutes, you get a couple of real strong scenes here. So again, if you're looking to waste some time, honestly, just fast forward. There's a great reveal scene later. All right, guys. I think that's it. Go check out the movies. Tune in next week for another mini-sode wherein we reveal our mystery guest for October, and get out there and watch them movies for the October Showdown, because that's going to be a big one. It's going to be a lot of fun, boys and ghouls. All right, for the Halloween's Forever crew, I'm Prime.
And I got no name, only the number 13 tattooed on my name.
Give it a fucking gabagoo.
Gabagoo.